Brawl Stars team has been releasing a new brawler every single month for the last few years, and most are broken at release. However, from time to time, there is bound to be a bad or weak brawler. Today, I am going to revisit some of Brawl Stars' most underwhelming brawler releases of all time. This is a video I already did in the past, but I decided to update the list by adding brawlers I didn't mention at that time, as well as some that were not released when I made this video. Don't forget this is my opinion, so if you disagree and think there are brawlers that should be on this list, you can write them in the comments with an explanation of why. With that being said, let's get right into this. Gene at release was not that good, and if I am not wrong, he also crashed the game. His super was not as good as it is now. It couldn't go through walls, which made Gene less effective on maps with walls. Also, the projectiles were smaller than they are now, making it easier for the enemy to avoid his shots. The only good thing he had was the ability to deal damage with his super without needing the star power, which also was not in the game at that time. Even though it was only 300 damage, which is a lot smaller than now, you need to take note that the maximum health of brawlers was not as high as today, and the maximum level was 9. Compared to other brawlers you will see on this list, he is not as bad, but still not good. Gale, for being the first chromatic brawler added to the game, was kind of disappointing. His attacks were very wide, and the projectiles were bigger, which made it easier to hit his shots. However, you wouldn't have dealt much damage because at most, you could hit 2 projectiles at long range, and even at close range it wasn't that good. Only the addition of 2 projectiles at most. Making the projectiles smaller and the attack not as wide helped him a lot to have much more consistent damage at both long and close range. One more thing, when he used his super, he would be pushed back, which could help you escape some situations, but the super itself did that job much better, making it more of an inconvenience than a help. Nani, compared to other brawlers at release, was not as bad because most of her aspects, like her super, star powers, and gadget, were pretty good, but one thing made her not that great: her main attack. If you played with her back then, you will know how hard it was to aim her shot, because there were no extensions to her main attack when it ended. This would only be added 1 month after her release. It shows how much better she became after this buff, and it helped her a lot to make her attacks more consistent. Colette may be the worst brawler ever released. Back then, her minimal damage was 200, and because of that, she struggled to eliminate enemies. Gameplay shows that really well. She was good against tanks, which had a lot of HP, but if you didn't get support from someone on your team to help you eliminate an enemy, you would struggle a lot with her. Usually today, when she hits a pet, a turret, a showdown box, or a heist safe, she deals a specific amount of damage, which is not based on percentage and is called damage to specific targets. However, that was not a thing for her main attack back then, which made it even worse in Showdown and also bad against brawlers like Jessie or Nita. Her gadget was not that good because it dealt only 40% of the current enemy health, which was changed to 37% of the maximum health of that brawler, making it much better. Until that buff, it was not that good. There were no other options because the second gadget was limited to only a few brawlers, and Colette got it much later. Not even a week after her release, she received 4 buffs and 1 rework for her gadget, which did help her. But for the rest of 2020, she would end up receiving 2 more sets of buffs in future balance changes, which shows how bad of a state she was in back then. Lou, compared to Colette, was not as bad, but still not good. His damage was very low, only dealing 380 per cone at level 1, and at long range, in most situations, you would probably only hit 1 cone or rarely 2. He was good as a support brawler, but without help from other teammates, he would struggle a lot. His health was 2800 at level 1, which made him pretty easy to eliminate. Also, his super didn't deal any damage, and that wouldn't change until 4 months after his release. Even though the damage is small, it is still helpful even today because it stops players' ability to heal while in the zone, which is a pretty good thing to have. Squeak is an interesting brawler. His main attack is good for controlling different zones, but back then it was still effective at that. However, most of the time, you couldn't really deal damage with his attacks if they didn't attach to an enemy brawler because the projectile speed was slower than it is now, which made it easier for enemies to avoid them. His super was even worse. Normally today it is very good, especially together with his second star power, which was not available when he was added and only became available 1 month after his release. In addition to this, for some reason, when his super landed, there was a delay before releasing the projectiles, making it very easy to avoid. Sadly, it remained in bad shape for 3 months, which is sad, especially for Squeak mains at that time. Otis is my favorite brawler, and it is kind of sad to put him on this list. His main attack didn't deal too much damage, 420 per ink drop, and like Lou, you will only hit 1 or 2 ink drops at most at long range. His second star power helps a lot with his damage by adding a 4th ink drop to his main attack, which makes it one of the best star powers in the game. Sadly, back then, Brawlers were released with 1 gadget and 1 star power, with the second one coming later. This star power was released a month and a half after his was added. The gadget available at launch was bad and still is today. It makes your super remain on the map if you missed, which on paper is good, but when executed, isn't that effective. If the enemy is skilled, they will know where it landed and can easily avoid it. Most of the time, it can land in very bad spots, making it not very helpful, and generally, you don't want to miss his super, which is usually used at close to mid-range. Additionally, if you hit your target with your super, the gadget would be used for nothing, and players were stuck with this one for about a month until the second gadget, which is a much better option, was released. The super itself is pretty good, and silencing an enemy brawler is great to have, no matter the situation, but it still missed something. When Otis was released, his super didn't deal any damage, which some may think is small addition today, but it's the addition he needed to become a better brawler then and now, and something he really requires to have, should never be removed. Willow is another brawler that crashed the game at release. She was very weak back then. She didn't have much health, only 2,500 at level 1, which made her very easy to eliminate. On top of that, when using her super and mind-controlling an enemy brawler, she didn't get any damage reduction shield like she gets nowadays, and the super projectile's width was smaller, so it was harder to aim back then. One small thing was that she couldn't break skulls with her main attack, which made her worse in Showdown, but that was fixed very quickly. She could have been even weaker than she was at launch. Her main attack, when it landed, had a delay of 1 second before dealing damage, which would have made her attacks easy to dodge, even if they landed on the enemy brawler. She got buffed before release, which helped her, but still received more in the coming months after launch. Maisie is an interesting brawler. Her attacks start slow and get faster over time. When she was released, her attack had a slower projectile speed, even if they got faster later. Because of that, her attacks were easier to predict, and at long range, it was not as easy to hit enemy brawlers. Her first gadget today is very good and one of the best dashes in the game because of the stun you get in addition to the dash. For some reason, they designed the gadget at launch to dash in the opposite direction rather than in the direction you are going, which can be helpful in some situations, but it made the gadget annoying to use. The dash direction was more of an inconvenience than helpful, and during that time, it was used only for the stun. She remained in that state for 2 months until she received 2 buffs and 1 rework. For most of his history, Doug was very weak, and his release was no different. His main attack is like Jackie's but worse. At launch, the damage was not the same, and the closer you were to the enemy, the more damage you dealt, which was a weird mechanic that made Doug less effective, especially since he didn't have, and still doesn't have, an ability to get closer to enemy brawlers. His super was also not as good as it is now. After you respawned, you only got 50% of your health back. The super didn't go through walls, which made it harder to aim at your teammates on maps with walls. Additionally, the super projectile's width was smaller, which was another reason why it was harder to aim, and it kind of made players using Doug just to use it on themselves to avoid wasting his super. He received a buff soon after his release and many more after that, which helped. But in the end, it didn't make him a good brawler. With the exception of the recent buff he received in the last balance change and the addition of his hypercharge, it may be enough for Doug to finally become a good brawler. Lily at launch had a very good super, which helped her get close to enemy brawlers, a very broken gadget, and 2 good star powers. However, what held her back from actually being a good brawler was her main attack. Today, everyone knows Lily has 2 ammo slots, which is more than enough for her to deal a lot of damage in a short period of time. But that was not the case back then. She only had 1 ammo slot, which limited her a lot. 2 months later, she got an additional ammo slot, but also received some nerfs to balance it. However, that was the buff she needed to become a very good brawler, and she is still a good option today, even after receiving nerfs since then. Ollie is one of the new brawlers released this year, and at launch, he was not that good. His main attack didn't deal a lot of damage, 850 at level 1, and combining that with his reloading speed not being very fast, at 1.8 seconds, he struggled a lot to eliminate enemy brawlers without the help of teammates. His super is no different. The hypnotizing part was pretty good, but it had a big problem. He was silenced while his super was active, meaning he couldn't attack the enemy brawler. Considering his weak DPS, he couldn't get the best value out of his super without the help of his teammates. Only 19 days after his launch, he ended up receiving some buffs, which helped him a lot, and he is a great option today. This is the end of this video. It took longer to make, but it was fun as usual. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to support my YouTube channel. See you in the next one. Peace.